Alright, this video is going to be an overview of my Gehl 4510 skid steer. This is a late 80s model. It has a 4-cylinder Ford gas engine, KSG 416. That's a 40 horsepower. The same engine is also put into Bobcat 632, 642, 722, and 732. And knowing that, some parts made it a little bit easier. Gehl, as far as the skid steer itself, you can get parts for Gehl. The engine itself, Gehl doesn't offer parts for it, so it took a little bit of research to find some parts, but if you search some of those Bobcat models, you have better luck for engine parts. So I bought this thing for a pretty reasonable price. It had been sitting in a barn for a while, not ran, and cleaned the points enough to get it running, and it ran enough to get it on the trailer, but it barely ran. So the carburetor was just spitting gas out the top. Needed a bunch of stuff. So I rebuilt the carburetor, but someone else had been in it and it's messed some stuff up. So I ended up, I'll show you here. The carburetor was kind of an obsolete model, so I didn't even bother with it. Instead, I replaced it with a Holley 1904 carburetor. It's a 1-barrel carburetor, and the reason I went with a Holley carburetor because all the jets for Holley carburetors, whether if you have a 4-barrel carburetor on your V8, whatever, they use the same jets. And I have a whole set of jets. I'm messing around with all my older vehicles have Holley carburetors. So put a Holley 1904 on it, got it running better. Then I switched to electronic ignition. I actually put a whole different distributor in it, Pertronics. I'll put the part number on the screen. And that got it running better. It still wasn't perfect, but it got it running better. So then the next thing was the governor. This engine has a belt-driven governor. Right here, it's a belt-driven governor, and on top you have your linkage rod and all these screws that you can adjust and set. So these skid steers have to have high RPM to operate the hydraulics. So I didn't have it running high, good enough to the hydraulics to work right. Once I adjusted this governor, then it really was good. So that's the engine part. Next, what I did was rebuilt all 4 cylinders. So the hydraulic cylinder, took them off, took them apart. 3 of them were pretty good. All I had to do was replace the seals. One of them, I think it was this one, the piston itself, someone had hit the end of it with a hammer or something, and it smashed the groove where the seal was. So I had to machine that groove out. Okay, after I rebuilt the cylinders, then I took my attention to the drive part. This cover here and this cover down here, this is your adjustment plate. You can take those off and you can see your drive chains and sprockets. So you can adjust this. And there's one on the inside also. And that gets your drive chains adjusted. That's pretty important on these kind of machines. Brand new tires, someone had tried to weld bolts to the hubs and just hitting them with a hammer, they fell right off. So all new wheel studs, new tires. Now this skid steer is a Gehl T-bar design. So this lever here drives. So you have forward, back, and then you twist it to turn. Then this lever operates your hydraulics. So forward, back, twist to tilt. The drive bar, you could just move it around, and it didn't have a home position. So you never knew if you were in neutral and you go try to start it and it would be moving on you. So there are these pads inside here. You might be able to see it. And it actually has like brake pad material on it. And it's got, an indentation in that brake pad material for your neutral position. So once I replaced those pads, and you adjust these rods that this operates on, you can get your neutral set and everything working right. That helped a lot. So this skid steer has auxiliary hydraulics, and that's operated by foot pedal. So the only thing operated by foot is the auxiliary hydraulic. Next, Gehl. This skid steer did come with quick attach, but it's Gehl's own quick attach, which is not universal to anything else. So any attachment you had, you would have to have that certain Gehl quick attach system on it. So I got a plate off of a John Deere 318D skid steer, and what I did on it was cut off the brackets that mounted it to that skid steer and then made my own. So you can buy some universal quick chain, you know, brackets that you can convert and everything, but they're not real. They're kind of light duty, and this is a really nice heavy duty system. So you can see the brackets just out of plate. So this was taken off the skid steer it was on because it needed rebuilt. The pins and bushings were out that operate these levers, so I rebuilt all that. It's all good. Nice heavy handles. So you open those two handles up and your attachment comes right off. It's that easy. And that's a must-have for any skid steer nowadays. If you want to rent any equipment, buy any equipment, universal skid steer, you can use anything. So that's the way to go for that. Okay, up next, I added heat. So this is a Meridyne heater. Runs, you know, you run antifreeze through it. So it's got the switch up there. You have your outlets there, and I also ran defrost up to the front door. So this cab was not enclosed. I enclosed it myself. The sides, I just put polycarbonate Lexan, just bolted them in, and then I made a door. I'll insert a picture. I made a door for the front that just sits on bullet hinges I welded on. You can take it on, you just pick it up to take it off. So I'll show you where the heater hooks up. So anytime you're running heater hoses through metal, you can buy what's called a bulkhead fitting, and that bulkhead fitting will actually bolt through the metal. Then you have barbed ends up and down, so you just run your heater hoses. So this engine in particular had a hose already going from the water pump to the intake. So instead of, I just took that hose off and went from the water pump up to the heater and then back out to the intake. So, and the main reason for that was a snowplow. So I took a truck, I'll enter pictures of all this stuff. I took a truck snowplow and converted it to go onto the skid steer and hooked up the auxiliary for the tilt function. And it worked out really good. The main use of this skid steer for me is basically like an off-road forklift, being able to pick stuff up, move it around, take a truck bed off, you know, pick heavy stuff up. I'm always buying equipment, machines, whatever. So I actually made, I'll insert pictures, it's not on it right now, but I made a bracket to go on the back to add counterweight. I'm always picking up heavier stuff than this thing's capable of. The bracket just sits on the back, and then you can put, I have some suitcase weights, tractor suitcase weights, and I also have some bulldozer weights that were on the front of an old bulldozer. So you can pick how much counterweight you want to put on it. I have up to 600 pounds of counterweight. And that allows me to pick up at least 2,000 pounds. For example, my welding table, it's just under 2,000 pounds, and I was able to pick it right up off the trailer with this and bring it into the garage. So that's worked out very, very good. I also rebuilt the bucket, put a new cutting edge on it. I'll enter a picture. And a bolt-on tooth bar. So whenever I do need to move dirt, I have the tooth bar. So as I said, I mainly use this as a forklift. Something else that I welded together was this mini boom here. So instead of wrapping a strap or chain around one fork, and you always see people putting a C-clamp or something so the strap doesn't slide off, I welded this together so it actually uses both forks. Instead of wrapping a strap over one, hook whatever you're hooking there. If you're going to take an engine out or something like that, you can use this as a boom. And then that is chained back to the skid steer so it can't slide off. I also made one like this that sticks out 8 foot from the forks, which is nice to have up too. One other nice feature of this skid steer, the cab actually tips up so you can get to the engine and everything with the cab tilted up. Added LED floodlights front and back. New hoses, new metal lines for the cylinders while I had them off. See that floodlight on the back. All new pins and bushings. So the pins here, they're kind of specialty pins, and the pins in the back, I was able to buy those from Gehl. But when I adapted this up here, I made my own. I had to make my own bushings and pins for up front here. There's probably a better view of that quick change bracket. So if you have a Gehl 4510 and you're looking for parts or need certain part numbers of what I've done, just leave a comment and I'll help you out.